Thread local is a way how to create in multithreading Java, how to, for each thread, have its own copy of that variable. So for example, in this case, let's say that we are creating two threads, thread 1 and the thread 2, and we want to each one of them has its own copy of an integer variable. We cannot just create here an integer variable, because in that case that will be shared by both threads. And as we have seen earlier, we may have conditions such as a race condition and others that which we have in the multi-threading environment. The solution for that in Java that is introduced is using a thread local. So in the thread local, what we do is, for example, let's say that we want to save an integer, right? So for the integer, what we do, we are creating one thread local with the parameter being the integer, and we are setting for the thread 1 its own value, and for the thread 2 we are setting its own value, 100 here and 200 here. And if we run this, as you can see here, for the thread 0 it's a 100, for the thread 1 for the thread 1 it's 200. But how it works under the hood, let's take a look how it works under the hood. So what happens is when we create a new thread is basically an object, right? It's created on the heap memory, and it has a name, and this is a priority, and so on. And one of those variables that we have in the heap as a part of that object, thread object, is a thread local. So we are introducing a new hash map here, thread local, where we are storing our values. And for each thread we are creating its own stack, so it has its own call frames, local variables, and the return addresses, and so on. But that's what happens under the hood, right? In our case, when we introduce a thread local, so what we do is, let's say we have created 3 threads, right? Then 3 objects are created on the heap. 3 thread objects are created on the heap, and each of them has a copy of has a field thread local which has a map, right? So we are here, let's say that we have a variable, whatever we call that variable, that's a local variable, right? So for each one we are setting its own value. That's how it's handled under the hood in Java. So going back to our example, in our example what will happen is, for each thread we will create its own thread local map, and in the thread local map we are going to store key and value, right? So for the first one we are going to store 100, for the second one we are going to store 200. That's it about the local thread and its use in the multi-threading Java.